Way to work here this morning. Ready to go. You heading off to the stock desk to do a little work here this morning? Nice to see you, folks. It's Monday, February 5th, 2024. Say no more. I decided to invest all my money in soup stocks. I'm going to be a billionaire. And would it be all right to consider trading stocks from inside a bath of sparkling apple juice? Or would that be insider trading? Perhaps. Perhaps yes, perhaps no. Morning, Benson. Nice to see you here this morning. Prosthetic store down the street from me has run out of stock. Things are definitely getting out of hand over there. How you folks doing? What do you got up to this morning, Monday? The 5th of February, the small month, the little month. There's only so many days of the week. There's so many days of the week that you can join in and hit me up in the morning show. It's Brody Alfonso. Thanks for tuning in. Those of you tuning in all the way around the world, and those of you tuning in on the juice. The juice is in the house, and the house is in the juice. It's the morning stock and talk show here where we're going to discuss the prices of magic cards and what's going on in the world of MTG. Won't you join me here, friends of the channel? We got Benson and friends in the house, Cardboard Splendor, and anyone else who feels like discussing the prices of magic cards here on the morning show. You can feel free to join in and do it with me. Do you like tracking the prices of magic cards? Is there enough information out there? Or is there perhaps just too much information? Let me do it for you. I'm doing it here on the morning show. Before you get up and go, wherever you may be, you may have Brody dangling from the rear view mirror of the car. Maybe you're hanging around the water cooler at the office right now. I know you are. You're standing around the water cooler just like Seinfeld, wondering how many times you're going to shuffle that same pack of paper to the top of the pile, looking for something to do. Wherever you are, maybe you got me at the gym this morning. Maybe you're pumping some iron, you're getting your workout in. Thank you for joining me here, dragging me along for the ride this morning. It's good to be here. Anger Collection's in the house. Nice to see you, Anger. If you boil a funny bone, does that become a laughing stock? Now that's humorous. All right. Well, before we get started here this morning talking stocks, let's talk AI here this morning. Let's take a look at some AI generated magic cards. We're going to head on over to Robo Rosewater just to warm up the chops here this morning. If you folks have been with me once before, you know the rules to it. We're going to look at some AI generated magic cards. And I got some good ones here this morning. They're kind of cute and fuzzy. And that's okay by me. But if the card is playable any way whatsoever, we'll give it a pass. You'll hear this sound. All right. And if the card has got a bunch of gibberish on it, if it doesn't work, if it's non-functional, if it doesn't meet the sniff test of a magic card, we're going to hear this sound. We'll fail it right now. All right, let's take a look at this one here, folks. This one's kind of cute and fuzzy, right? I wanted to get some fresh stock for my comedy studio, but people called it a laughing stock. And a stock trader's favorite band is Green Day. I was feeling lonely, so I bought some shares of GameStop. I just wanted some company. Look at this one here. Puskal Deity. The read reaction. We got a 2-2 cat warrior. Reminds me when someone was slow playing me by shuffling 5 minutes while I had the win. Back to work today. Deleted 100 emails. Is this cat studying pasta? Yes, al dente athon. Athleon. Al dente athleon. He's reading a book that says Weird Core. He's studying pasta. Al dente. To the tooth. This one here. What do we get for 5 mana? We get a cat. All right. Let's read it here. For 5 mana, we get a 2-2 for a green, a red, and 3. Legendary Cat Warrior. Read. I can't even pronounce this. Hurts my head, right? This cat is studying pasta. This hurts my head. Read Ahihlon. You don't lose the game when defender convoke exile Husgal deity. All creatures get -1/-1. Ugh. Let's get it out of here. Can't bear it. Bring the volume down to a reasonable level here this morning. All right. This one's non-functional. Junk text. Got a bunch of junk text on it. How about this one here? Grower at the sunset. Horse beast. Horse meat? Horse beast. This is the beast that says it's an is it beast. A blue, a red, and you get a 1/1. Grower at the sunset enters the battlefield with more +1/+1's counters on it. Just more counters. It enters with more. Reminds me when someone was slow playing me by shuffling 5 minutes while I had the win. Right? Slow rolling me. And for a snow, it says 2/6. Does this change his power and toughness? Horse meat, like when IKEA used to serve meatballs made of horse. All right, what else do we say? Creatures without flying can't attack you or planeswalkers you control, and other knights you control get +1/+1. Not too bad. I'm raising money for a new row of shrubs in the garden this summer by selling stocks. If you'd like a few shares in my hedge fund, let me know. Let's give this pass, I guess. Enters the battlefield with more +1/+1 counters on it. No, no. I wonder what Gaming Bob would say. One Swedish meatballs or horse meat, eh? Still eat them. How are we going to rank this one? Ranking and flanking our way this morning. Non-functional junk text. Let's give it some more junk text. Ooh, cool. Look at this Karn Mullermancio. Look at this legendary 6 mana Karn. 6 mana Karn. All right, I just wish that I'd made early investments in hand sanitizer for over the last few years. Somebody somewhere is rubbing their hands together, made some money selling hand sanitizer and Plexiglass. Karn, the Maller of Manchio. 6-mana Planeswalker. Okay, so far this checks out. Not too bad. Target creature you control with 1/1 counter on it gains trample, first strike, double strike, indestructible, lifelink, reach, trample again, and vigilance. Holy Voltron, hey? And then the -9. So you got to tick this thing up a bunch. The Maller of Manchio. -9, you get an emblem with creatures you control have. When this creature dies, target creature gains flying until end of turn. Doesn't seem like much of an ultimate. The +1's really good. The -9, not so much. I mean, you could just keep +1ing this thing. It's fine. Creatures you control have whenever this creature dies, target creature gains flying until end of turn. For a -9, I almost want to say it's underpowered, but the +1 ability seems pretty good. A horse is a fine meal. Oh, what do you folks think? Should we pass this? Should we fail it? Stock market's confusing for some people, but it makes sense to me. Why did Danny DeVito sell all his stocks? Turns out he's a short seller. Germany is now advising citizens to stock up on cheese and sausages. It's a worst case scenario has arrived. All right, let's take a look at this worst case scenario for all the Germans stocking up on sausage this morning. Let's give it a pass. Let's pass the Karn. Why not? It seems underwhelming though. All right. Fair OP, underpowered, non-functional. I'll say fair because the downside is such trash. I mean, the +1 is really good, but the downside, I think, balances it out. Now we got the Balathor Reblesser Morn. Oh, this hurts my head too. Bal- Balethor Reblesser Mornire. A 3/1 Elath. This is an Elath? I don't know. Hmm. My friend who's a stockbroker on Wall Street wants to open a florist shop. He wants to stop and sell the roses. And where do the stockbrokers dock their boat? At the portfolio. All right, this 3/1, it should have flying on it. Belethor Reblesser Monair has mountain flying. Mountain flying, hey? Actually could be a mechanic like Mountain Walk, but just mountain flying instead. I guess, yeah, who wants to walk over the mountains when you could fly? The name is too long. How does mountain flying work? I don't know. It's like mountain walking, but mountain flying. Yeah, let's fail it. Let's call it some gibberish. There's no such thing as mountain flying, Brody. There just isn't. Why'd the mortgage broker go out of business? Because he lost interest. And this one's junk tax. What about this Frong Ocorarian? Ocorarian? Frong? Fronging. Longing to frong. Here, this one is. Make the new mechanics. This creature has flying if the opponent has a mountain. Actually, that would work, wouldn't it? If your opponent controls a mountain, then this creature gets flying. Huh. Working as a livestock broker is a rough job. You're always trying to pay the bulls. What do we got here? Ongoing enchantment. This thing is forever ongoing. It levels up, or is it a planeswalker? It's one or the other. Morning, Dubs. How you doing? Nice to see you here this morning. Having a chill Monday. Relaxing this Monday morning with you folks, reading some AI magic cards. What do you call somebody who buys and sells shrimp? A prawn broker. All right, level up. What's this say? Frong, the accordion deals 3 damage divided as you choose among any number of non-artifacts you control. Of course, and you can -2 it to tap target creature. Any number of non-artifacts you control. Of course, you can't do damage to artifact. And then the -3, you get an emblem with whenever creature attacks, whenever a creature you control attacks, each opponent fights the creature card. Get out of here. Someone get Gavin up in this chat. I'll pitch new ideas to Watsy, right? And that seems good. If your opponent controls a mountain, then it has flying, right? Did you hear about the sale on paddles at the boat store? It was a big ordeal. All right, let's get this one out of here. Big ordeal here this morning for you folks. Sale on paddles. And this one here, Alamore, the Sword War Portal. Legendary artifact. I'm putting a vacuum cleaner up for sale today on the stream. It's just collecting dust, so might as well get rid of it. I've got a parachute for sale, used once, never opened, small stain, must sell. That and a broken quiz machine for sale. No questions asked. But let's ask the question about Alamore, the Sword of War Portal. This legendary construct has mutate for a black, a white, and 4 flying first strike vigilance. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may pay 1. If you do, search that player's library for a card and put that card into your hand, then shuffle 5 and tap it. Alliance, the Sword of War Portal does, is it 13 damage to any target and 9 to tap it and draw a card? Yeah. What have we got here? This is playable, I believe, if it has Planeswalker abilities. It doesn't need loyalty to do plus ability. Get the Frong out of here. All right, selling coffins is a dead-end job. I discourage any salesperson to do it. You should undertake a new career, and so should this magic card. This thing is just it's I don't think it cuts it. Secret layer circular logic is a sorcery. Oops. Fair OP. This thing's kind of gibberish. It is whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you got to search that player's library. Little OP. And what else we got here? Siren of this. We got some good ones here. Siren of the Steel Miona. Miona. All right, DeLorean sale at the car lot, only used from time to time. Honestly, all the white card, all honestly, the all white card treatment is pretty horrible too. Partying. All right, I have some racing geese for sale. Let me know if you want a quick gander. I'll show them to you. Siren of the Steel Miona, legendary bird, right? This is like a racing geese, a fast bird werewolf. Take a quick gander at this racing goose. Forest Walk 2/2, partying. It's partying. Go look at the secret layer that was spoiled with circular logic, e-wit, etc. I'll have to do that here this morning, Tommy. Let's do it. Forest Walk partying whenever a permanent an opponent controls dies. Scry 1 for the bird werewolf. A permanent dies. Close, but no cigar. This thing, we should pass it. It seems fine. It's got some creepy art on it. You ever see a bird werewolf? If you wanted to know, now you do. And Tarfin's Step. Let's see if I can pull up that secret lair with Ewit here. I'll pull that up here for you folks this morning too. MTG Secret Lair. Circular Logic. Where's the new one? Where is it there, Tommy? Oh, I got the Just Add Milk. I'm trying to find it here for you folks. Circular Logic from Torment. MTG Circular Logic. Eternal Witness. I got spoiled last night. I think Saffron might have talked about it. MTG Secret Lair. Let's see here. News. We got some articles here this morning on Secret Lair. Perhaps we can read that. You know, we got the dire undercurrents that was spoiled. All right. George Foreman Grill. Here's an interesting Kijiji ad. For sale, George Foreman Grill and Muhammad Ali DVDs, both boxed. Found a trampoline for sale. The deal was so good I had to jump on it. Let's jump on this one. Tarfin's Step. Enchantment. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, put a quest counter on Tarfin's Step. Pay 2 and tap it and add red and a waste for each quest counter on Tarfin's Step. Like a storage land. Take a Googs on the Saffron. Okay. Circular Logic. Tournament finishes and MTG decks. It's at home. Are you looking on X, maybe? Oh, this one here. Price of Progress, e-witness. All right. Well, let's go to X then. Boom. This the one? Winter 2024 Super Drop. The store near me is having a sale on batteries. If you buy 2 packs, they'll throw in a pack of dead ones free of charge. So here it is here. This is the one I think you're talking about, Tommy. 2024 super drop winter price of progress, eternal witness, wall of omen, circular logic, and screaming symmetry, scheming symmetry. Seems pretty simple, right? Just black and white. Do we like this? You want to save a fortune on ink? Just go with the black and white. Why not? Why didn't Darth Vader hire stormtroopers to do his marketing? Because they're always missing their sales targets. Oh. Got a functional errata to sorcery. Circular logic. What was it before? Let's take a look. Circular logic. It was an instant, but got a functional errata to sorcery. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 1 for each card in your graveyard. And then madness. It has to be an instant, or how does it work? They goofed. Ah, they goofed. They did. How can it be? How can you counter a spell at sorcery speed? Doesn't work, right? Interesting. I don't know how they're going to sell this. How are we going to sell this to the folks, right? Oops. Now it's a sorcery. Casting spells at sorcery speed. Mrs. Alfonso says I'm addicted to auction. She's actually wrong. I actually stopped after going once, going twice, going 3 times. All right. Looks like circular logic. Yes. What do you think of these folks here? Do you like them? Little bit of a mix up. All right, Terrafin step. What are we gonna do? This seems good. I like this. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, put a quest counter on Terrafin step. It reminds me of like the storage lands that they had, like Acacian Store and Dwarven Mine from Fallen Empires. But whenever you cast a spell of a certain type, it procs it, and then you can ramp with it. So one quest counter is going to net you even mana, I guess, because you got to pay 2 into it, and then as soon as you get the second one, this seems really good, almost as good as like the Sarah Sanctuary. Put that on a card. I like this. Let's give this a pass. How do people rate this? Fair, just like mountain flying, a decent ability. What's his mystic force? Are they even trying at this point? Who wants a simple? Who wants that simple of an art? I don't know how hard they're trying with that art. I mean, it's a good point. I That's my first sort of a reaction. It's like this seems like cheaply done. Cheap saving money on ink, right? All right, don't go stone to an auction because you win or lose, you'll be the highest bidder. You bought a crystal ball from an auction recently. I figured it was must be worth a fortune. You know, the Canadian plumber was considered buying a toilet at an auction. Maybe I'll make a bid, eh? Mystic Force, haste 2/2. From black and 1, you get an insect with haste, and when it enters the battlefield, look at the top all cards of target player's library, then proliferate. You get to look at the top all cards, not just the top 1, not the top 2, the top all. What's the best class in school for soda lovers? Physics. That's a dinger. Thank you, Mill Master. Thank you for giving me a real fizzy. The warm and fizzy's here this morning. Well, this thing, I think it. I think we got to fail this card because you look at the top all cards of target player's library. It's like you get to look at the entire deck. Seems busted. Anybody use eBay for buying and selling cards? Let's fail this one. Get it out of here. And then the last one that we're going to look at here is Gear of Singulariton. Singularation. I tried to look up a lighter for sale on eBay. They didn't have any, but they did have 18,346 matches. So I'm not allowed to use eBay anymore. I was forbidden. Just sold a set of homing pigeons on eBay for this 22nd time. It's so useless. I'm thinking of selling my John Lennon memorabilia on eBay. Imagine all the PayPal. Living for today. We've got the Gear of Singularation. Okay, for a white, a red, and one, you get this legendary enchant. Whenever you discard a card, Gear of Singularation deals a damage to any target. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may pay a white. If you do, create a blood token. Doesn't seem too bad. I think we could pass it. Bought a 30-year-old pack of chewing gum on eBay. You'd think it'd be gone by now, but it's still in mint condition. It's Monday. Taking an easy run at a Monday morning here this morning, folks. Just wade into the week with me here, would you please? It's going to be a good one. Nice to see you folks here this morning from around the world, wherever you're joining. I want to say thank you once again for tuning in. We got a couple of articles to read here at the stock desk for you folks this morning. I've got Magic's newest land cycle at Karlov's Manor is the biggest sleeper. If you think if you're still sleeping at this point on Monday morning, then maybe you're one of the land cycle of Karlov Manors. And MTG alternate reality game heavily impacts Karlov Manor art. In 2024's Prettiest Secret Lair has awful value. I'm going to take a look at this news article for you folks, but first, let's take a look at the weekly winners from last week, okay? Stock rundown recap of the week. This is brought to you by the fella running the stock desk. That's Arjun here this morning, and one of the most heavy metal cards in the game. Last week we had a little bit of a discussion about the heavy metal cards. I like the Holy Day card, but this one takes the cake. I think it was Dual Brain who mentioned it. This one here, Dream Chisel, rocking out hard here on the morning show. Love to alter this. Why not? And a congratulations to Garen Jotter, who took down a standard RCQ over the weekend. So he's got an invite to go to Montreal, I believe, playing Infect Toxic in standard. So a good buddy of mine I was able to catch up with on the text message this weekend, taking down a standard RCQ. You folks still play standard? Is it still worth getting into some competitive play? Toxic seems pretty good. And since the last standard relevant to prices article that we left off on last week, and its resurgence of the format that influences card prices fueled by enjoyable gameplay and RCQ season. So, congratulations to Garen Jotter, who took down an RCQ over the weekend, earning those invites and the buys to the RCQ in Montreal. So I hope you get to go. The article that we read last week speculated on standard cards and future market trends, highlighting the strategy and importance of certain land cards within the evolving standard meta, discussing broader economic factors affecting the Magic card market, including insights on the reserve list and analysts, and crucial for players and investors looking to navigate the current landscape of card collecting and competitive play. So let's take a look at this card here, Dream Chisel. This is a 2-mana artifact. Face down creature spells you play cost 1 less to cast. Seems good. I don't see a chisel in hand, though. It's chiseling here this morning. I need that altered with a double guitar. Me too. This card's seen a bump up in price. It really has, making face down creatures morphing, right? It's heavy metal music. 2 weeks ago, we discussed this card when the foil prices went up, but now we also see the regular print of Dream Chisel moving up in price. While the foil price has mostly been stable since then, nevertheless, the foil version of this card is almost 6 times more expensive than the non-foil print. Dream Chisel is an artifact that costs 2, making your face-down creatures cost 1 less. They need 40k Noise Marine. They could have given a turtle with morph. All right, Dream Chisel printed in Onslaught, making this rare over 21 years old. And also important to note that it hasn't been reprinted since. Playing your face down creatures for 1 mana is huge advantage when, especially nowadays, playing a 2/2 for 3 mana is really underwhelming. Other cards that support face down creatures are cards like Secret Plans, Trail of Mystery, and both of them have had several reprints already. So Secret Plans, what do we got here? Face down creatures you control get +0/1, and then whenever a permanent you control is turned face up, you draw a card. When are we getting our Ninja Turtle with Megamorph? Kamigawa had a teenage turtle ninja mutant, closest it could be so far. In the Trail of Mystery and Enchant, whenever a face down creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may search your library for a basic land card and reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. If a permanent you control is turned face up, if it's a creature, it gets 2/2 until turn. All right, narrowing down why this card is spiking isn't exactly rocket science when you've been following previous seasons of Murders of Karloff Manor, where face-down creatures have received some renewed attention. This new ability, Disguise, has popped up on some preview cards and allows players to pay 3 to cast a card while the ability is face down as a 2/2 colorless. Typeless creature with Ward 2, Disguise is a better version of Morph, which was considered to be a bit too weak for the current standard environment, so we considered a face-down creature nonetheless. With the new face-down commanders like Errata Deadly Fugitive, face-down creatures you control have blue-black 2, turn it face up. If you can't exile it, then you may cast the exile card without paying its mana cost. Whenever an assassin you control deals combat damage to an opponent, cloak the top card of that opponent's library. We can see people trying to build decks around this, and Dream Chisel is the card that will most likely see play in a deck that revolves around face down, as it is colorless. And Phyrexian Tower, seeing a bump up in price. Holy smokes, $99. This is a card that we also saw in the movers and the shakers last week. It's not really $80 because the article said so, but it's quickly moving up, and the cheapest version is now $38 from the Double Masters, I believe, and it still comes around $20 not too long ago, especially in the Urza Saga print, going up quickly among printings from the list. This is most likely due to most of them having the original art and old card frame, which are preferred by a lot of players, thinking that the first encounter of Phyrexian Tower Nick Fit decks were somewhat part of the legacy metagame. The most well-known combo is to sacrifice Veteran Explorer to your tower, find 2 lands, and then have 5 mana available for large spells. Sure, it would also ramp your opponents, but in a format where dual lands are prominent, a lot of decks don't always play basic lands, while Nick Fit itself played several of them. Phyrexian Tower is an amazing card in the right deck. You could argue that having to sacrifice a creature is a downside, but in decks that do run this Phyrexian Tower, it's almost always an upside. You want to sacrifice creatures anyway, getting some extra mana return. It's the icing on the cake. Both an accelerant and a sacrifice outlet that's relatively hard to deal with makes the card wanted as part of the mana base for both casual and competitive players and formats. And funnily enough, When I tried to search for Phyrexian Tower on the internet, I mainly came across decks from the Timeless format on Magic Arena, which doesn't exist on paper. So this has an effect on the paper price of this card. Very doubtful. It's hard to pinpoint a good reason why this card chose to move up in price all of a sudden. Anybody have any ideas here? While it's absolutely bonkers that this card having a home in a lot of decks, you'd expect a more gradual price increase from the tower. Mana Barbs? Hey, how you doing, Brain? Nice to see you. My ambassador of Quan here this morning. Man, I must be getting old. I don't remember if I even have one. Mana Barbs, up 46%. What version is it? The 6th edition. Good old Mana Barbs, up last week. This enchantment punishes players for tapping a land for mana, especially in a format like Commander, where there are big expensive spells flinging around that can add up to pretty quickly. Find it really hard to pinpoint why this card is moving all of a sudden. In the last new commander we saw that could benefit from this was Oger Axonil Deepest Might. This was the Trampley Boy, 4/4 for red sorcery we can control would deal an amount of non-combat damage. If a red source you control would deal an amount of non-combat damage less than Oger Axonil's power to an opponent, that source deals damage equal to Oger's power. Instead, when Axonil dies, return to the battlefield tapped and transformed under its owner's control. Holy smokes. So, like, Mana Barbs deals 4 every time player taps a land? This is insane. Ooh, I got some unlimited barbs. This is insane. Mana Barbs with Oger, so every time a land taps, and it deals, instead of dealing 1 damage, it deals 4 instead? That seems really, really powerful. Holy smokes. And Zozu, the Punisher, the little Gobbo warrior that says whenever a land comes into play, he deals 2 damage to that land's controller. And this one here, giving you mana burn. Let's bring back mana burn. Been saying it for years, right? Player losing unspent mana causes that player to lose that much life. Each player adds a Jund, right? Urlock, the Scorched Thrash. I know Murray was building with this, but the Mana Barb seems really good with Oger Axonil Deepest Might. I mean, you're going to want to be playing your Mana Rocks instead of tapping your lands. All right. Oger definitely isn't the only commander that likes to ping people. The Urlock, the Scorched Thrash, also likes to mess with people and their mana. There isn't any real synergy per se, but it does fit in the same theme. And I guess the same is true for Zozu, the Punisher, who punishes players for putting lands into play. We also have Auntie Blight, the bad influence. Who's a bad auntie? Who's this one? Devil Advisor, whenever a source you control deals damage to you, put that many one counters on Auntie Blight, the bad influence. She can get really big, and then remove X 1 counters for Auntie deals X damage to any target. Wow. So you can see the loop that you can create here with Mana Barbs. Auntie grows whenever you deal damage, and that's exactly what Mana Barbs does. So every time you take damage, the Auntie gets bigger. You can swing with her and then remove the counters and smash face. By the way, Millmaster, the Laughing Man, is one of my top 3 antagonists of all time. What a great character villain. The Laughing Man. What else we got? Cheap pickups? Little Chandra, the Awakened Inferno. $5 and moving up. And Magnus of the Red. Mystic Gate. And another article brought to you by Arjun over the stock desk. Thank you, Arjun, for bringing us this. Is the recap of winners last week. The Mana Barbs, what do you folks think? I think that's incredibly powerful. Holy smokes. Mana Barbs, we used to play that with Power Surge, right? So you'd take damage for tapping lands, and then you'd also take damage for not tapping lands. So with the Mana Barbs and Oger Axonil, the Deepest Might, that's going to Deal 4 every single time. I think that's a quick way to finish out a game. Not too bad indeed. Nice to see you, Dual Brain. Ed. And everybody else tuning in here this morning. It's Monday. We're just going to ease into the week here today. It's Monday. We're going to have just a light Monday, a light, refreshing Monday. I'm excited. Wherever you are, if you're at work, if you're hitting the work week this week, remember, we got a few days left to go here this morning. All right, I got another interesting article for you folks here this morning. Magic's newest land cycle is Karlov Manor's biggest sleeper. What do you folks think? Do you and before we get to that, let's take a look. Let's take a look at this new secret layer here, Brain. What do you think? Do we save money on ink? Is that what we're doing here? Is this why this secret layer is kind of going what it is? It looks like playtest cards to me. I could be wrong, but they look kind of cheap, right? I was recently banned from the Antique Roadshow. I was trying to have my family jewels appraised. All right. And yesterday I ran into a man who sold me an antique globe once upon a time. Hey, it's a small world. Price of progress. Let's read an article here this morning. Let's talk about the murders at Karloff Manor. Biggest sleepers. Do you think? I haven't even, a good land cycle is what you need in a new set. It is to make it viable. That's the one question that we always must ask ourselves when a new set comes out. Does it have a good land cycle? Not going to lie, I thought those were sleeves at first. I've been a Shiro superfan since those Eclipse comics back in the 80s. Magic was my Haxor name in the 80s too. So let's take a look at some of these secret layer lands. I want to know how good these are. Insidious Roots. Okay, whenever a player looks at a new set of cards, there are some immediate standouts, and Murders at Carlock Manor is no exception. Insidious Roots looks like an. Let's see this. Creature tokens you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. Holy smokes. And whenever one or more creature cards leave your graveyard, create a 0/1 green plant creature token and put a 1/1 counter on each plant you control. This thing is going to be really good long term. Holy smokes. If you could pick a card that was going to perform as well as Anointed Procession, or perhaps even a little better, this thing might do it. This seems good in the uncommon slot. Insidious Roots, giving your plants ramp, and tokens, tapping for mana, creature tokens. Holy smokes, now all your tokens are dorks. This is going to be kind of busted. It looks like an immediate option for Yawgmoth combo. Druid's Charm looks the same. Here's the one that costs 3, and you get this search mode. It's modal, so you choose one, search your library for a creature or land card, reveal it, put it into the battlefield, tap, and if it's land, otherwise, put it into your hand and then shuffle, or put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. If it deals damage equal to its power to another creature, it just fights. And then you can exile an artifact or enchantment. Okay, so it looks like an insane various combo deck, and No More Lies fits into every Auxorius control deck. This is the can't be countered, right? Counter target spell, casting cost 3. And if it's countered, put it into exile instead. All right, with that said, the cards that commonly take people by surprise are the ones that players don't see coming. Which cards in Murders at Karloff Manor are good in a sneaky kind of way? Let's take a look starting at the new Surveil land. Here they are. Uncommons in standards are bonkers. Brody, we are talking anime in case you were wondering. Thank you. Hey, good morning, Gaming Bob. We're talking lands here this morning. Surveil lands from Murders at Karloff Manor. So these commercial district, the elegant parlor, hedge maze, lush portico, and so on. These are the combination lands that come into play tapped, and they also allow the player to surveil one. These are in the rare slot. How good is the surveil land? Well, the 10 new surveil dual lands definitely going to see some play, but the question is how much? Early tournament play suggests that the answer is something along the lines of way more than people expect. These surveil lands are an obvious slam dunk for non-CEDH commander decks, meaning casually playing these lands. Between offering card selection and having basic land types, the surveil lands are both fetchable, delectable, and synergize with a ton of different graveyard synergies while offering card selection. Under Sooty Sewers, for example, is a perfect card for the new Murders at Karloff Manor Precon Sewer. This is the Demir Sewer. All right. In Standard and Pioneer, the Surveyor lands will likely see play as well. Triumphs do go a long way to stabilize mana bases, which could push these out, but any deck that are interested in the Surveil synergies that these cards offer probably won't be able to ignore it. Is this a possibility that Surveil is going to be even better in the future? Are we going to see some synergy down the road, which takes these lands to another level? However, Pioneer Temple still see some play in decks like Lotus Field Combo, and early lands do not need to enter untapped in that deck. Having some additional card selection is incredibly valuable when you're trying to top deck a combo starter. And with that said, because the deck wins by resolving Emergent Ultimatum, you don't necessarily want to move cards to your grave. Conversely, Leer Disciple of the Drowned, let's see this one, can't be countered. Spells can't be countered. Each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard has flashback, and the flashback cost is equal to the card's mana cost. Leer Disciple? So all spells can't be countered for 5 mana? Holy smokes. And Dark Petition, love to see cards in your graveyard. Oh, this is the one that has Spell Mastery. All right, in Modern, however, while the potential for these surveil lands to be relevant is definitely there, thanks to fetch lands, finding them, many were unsure if the card selection was worth the exchange and having the land enter tapped. And after one weekend of tournament play, that perspective has done a complete 180 degrees. Morning, Gaming Bob. Morning, DJ Longhair. Nice to see you. The brain is here this morning, too. Prophecy box break happening over at the Dual Brain channel. These lands just make me want to run Weathered Runestone and Bajuka Bog. 7-2 at SCG Con Hartford 10K with stock Rhiners. The Surveil lands are absolutely unequivocally broken. Play minimum 2 in Rhinos. Huh. I see a lot of people playing modern Rhinos and they make the comments like, I'm playing Legacy and everybody else is playing Modern. Anybody who attempted the Surveil lands over the weekend at SCG Con Hartford appeared incredibly impressed by them. By the testimony of a few different players that had recent performances this weekend, the new Surveil may become standard in modern current best deck. Multiple players attempted some Surveil lands in the Crashing Footfalls deck this weekend, and all of them had the same thing to say about them. They're absolutely broken. In many scenarios in a deck like Crashing Footfalls, if you don't have a lot of turn 1 plays, aside from suspending Crashing Footfalls itself, which is not ideal anyway, there's not much that this deck is trying to do out the gate. You still have the option to fetch for an untapped land if need be, but if not, you can still capitalize by fixing your draw and fueling your graveyard synergies like Murktide Region. Turn 0, 4/4 is amazing. Can't wait until the 3-month mark. Spotty sleeping with will end me. All right, all the people who tried to surveil lands over the weekend have big things to say about them. And if you're running a deck that doesn't necessarily need to have a series of untapped lands in the early goings consistently, you should consider trying a few surveil lands. Cryptic Coat? How about this one? Artifact equipment. When Cryptic Coat enters the battlefield, cloak the top card of your library, then attach Cryptic Cloak to it. To cloak a card, you put it onto the battlefield face down as a 2/2 creature with Ward 2 and turn it face up anytime for its mana cost if it's a creature card. You could probably cloak some stuff inevitably. These make my pet card Lion Sash even better. Cryptic Coat had a few players howling to the stars a few years ago. Back in the day, Jace the Mind Sculptor and Stoneforge Mystic were ruling the modern format. This would have been an obvious front liner. While Cryptic Coat still looks powerful, this weapon-esque equipment may be more powerful than it seems, thanks to the ability to bounce itself back to its owner's hand. The Cryptic Cloak can both provide a ton of value and becomes difficult to remove properly. Even if you cloaked your even if your cloak card goes down, you can simply bounce the coat to your hand and redeploy it between being very difficult to remove with a ton of value. Cryptic Cloak may be surprisingly powerful. In the case of Stashed Skeleton, any deck that can utilize Case of the Stashed Skeleton can solve its case somewhat consistently, probably wants this card. Well, what does it do? The Case of the Stashed Skeleton, okay? When this case enters the battlefield, you get a 2/1 skeleton and suspect it. To solve, you control no suspected skeleton. I guess you just got to sack that skeleton. Sacrifice this case, search your library for a card, and put it into your hand, and shuffle activate as a sorcery. So you basically get tutor off this if you can deal with the Case of the Stashed Skeleton. Pretty easy case to solve. My friend Espresso French Press and Brody helped me get through the day. Nice. Thanks, Benson. Nice to see you here. Any deck that can utilize the Case of the Stash Skeleton can also solve its case consistently. Probably wants this card. The existing archetype that appears to want this card is Creativity in Pioneer and maybe even in Modern. Not only does the Case of the Stash Skeleton create a token that can be used for indomitable creativity, but it should the token die in some way, you can solve the Case of the Stash Skeleton for a demonic tutor. This could also be a strong reason for Creativity and Pioneer to continue to make disappear. You can use the casually keyword to get rid of your skeleton and then solve the case. At the moment, Pioneer Creativity is not playing white, so no more lies, maybe less natural upgrade. Let's have a sip of coffee here. All right, so this is an interesting case of this stashed skeleton. So I did not consider that playing it in creativity could be quite good because in creativity they play the Fable of the Mirror Breaker. So that seems really good. What's the rarity on the case? The case is okay, so this case is rare. So that means the 2/1 black skeleton creature token that it makes is also a rare token. So keep an eye out for your packs for the skeleton token that goes with this because it would be a rare as well. So that's something to look out for. The case of this, trying to crack this case of this stash skeleton. So something that we learned from Fable of the Mirror Breaker, the one that makes the 2/2 goblin, that one's in the mythic slot, and the token is even harder to find. This one is in the rare slot, so the token might be a couple of bucks. But with a deck like Creativity, where you want to wheel cards off the top of your deck until you hit something a lot better. Let's see here. Destroy X target artifacts or creatures for each permanent destroyed this way. Its controller reveals cards from the top of the library until another artifact or creature is revealed. So basically, you play like a big bad Archon or a World Spine Worm or a game winning finisher, large creature in the deck, and that's it. And then you want things like the Fable of the Mirror Breaker and then the Stash Skeleton to help you get the indomitable creativity into play. Relative, very relative. Have a zero coat out Zero cost outlet ready and available. Can break that case wide open, Watson. Zero cost sack outlet readily and available. So another way, if you're not playing creativity, this may be another way to do it. Repulsive mutation. This is the Simic, an X card. Put X11 counters on target creature you control, then counter up to one target spell unless this controller pays mana equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. So you buff your guys, and then you counter a spell unless you basically drain it for the largest power of creatures you control. Stash Skeleton, Deadly Dispute. So much value. Repulsive Mutation may not be strong enough to see play outside of standard, but the card could be a fantastic addition to a tempo strategy. Repulsive Mutation has the unique application of buffing your board presence and countering a spell, making it incredibly powerful tempo play. Particularly, one notes that this card is that you do not have to counter a spell, allowing mutation to also be used as a combat trick. Oh. Yeah, I guess it says counter up to one spell, right? This means Repulsive Mutation will be able to counter a spell if you do not have a creature in play and can be blown out by instant speed removal just like any other combat trick. With that said, Mutation at peak efficiency is disgustingly powerful. Any commander deck interested in +1/+1 counters on X spells is also likely to take a shine to this card, and if played smartly, Repulsive Mutation can also provide a ton of value, creating a strong, disruptive game plan. Interesting. Like it. All right, it's time for the movers and the shakers, folks. No, we're not going anywhere. No, we're not going anywhere. We're just getting warmed up here this morning on a Monday edition of the show. Thanks for tuning in with me, folks. All the folks tuning in from around the world. Good to have you here. Modern Monday. Perhaps a venerated rot priest? Seeing something. I am seeing something materialize here this Monday morning. Some stock market information here. Let's punch it in. Get our movers and shakers started. All right, what do stock pickers need a degree in? Biology. And invest in puns, horny puns. Well, stock market has never been higher. All right. And if pork bellies are traded on the NASDAQ, do pork scrotums get traded on the NASDAQ? Hard to know. These are your movers and the shakers here this morning. Let's talk about it. We got the One Ring making the top of the chart here this morning. We're looking at a lot of zeros. Let's get Brody's pen out here this morning and draw some lines here. Eat. Nice to see you. What's cracking in games? All right. A lot of zeros here on the chart and the movers and the shakers here this morning. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. What does this mean? Well, this is probably just refreshed. It's a 24-hour movers and shakers, right? Daily change. So this is just rolled over from yesterday, but this is what we're seeing. Oh, schnoot. The One Ring went off. Good to see you, Brody. Yes, the One Ring. I still need to get myself the bundle. Murray picked it up. and I am I'm still not packing that one ring. I need it. Which one is this? Which ring is this one? Which one ring is this? Is the basic one. Gemstone Cazzard foil. The most worth it bundles in MTG. Well, I talked to Murray and he said he overpaid for his bundle by a little bit. By a little shot. How many versions of the one ring do we have? Certainly not just one. Oh, there's so many rings to be had. There's this one, there's that one. I think this is the one that comes in the bundle, isn't it? I don't really care. I just want to get one. It's going to keep going up. It is. This is the one T Freezy has. There's all different kinds of one ring. I think there's 5. There's 5 different one rings, right? What is this world coming to? I mean, what happens when you tell someone she's the one, right? Well, not as exclusive anymore, but this one ring's very good. Speaking of ways to deal with it, right? Void Mage Shusher. That's a good way to deal with it. Yes, you've got to blink this thing or stifle it. People are casting this on turn 1. Very easy. You are one of 5. Sorry to say. The one ring, it's indestructible and it's $70. Let's take a look at the chart on this. See how high this thing came out and then where is it going? All right, let's see. Where is the one ring going? Can I get some predictions from you folks? I hate to say this, but like the rate that things are going, I would say like for one, I don't think for one with the one ring, I don't see we're going to get a reprint on this anytime soon unless we get another Lord of the Rings IP set. Okay? Now, when that's going to happen, it may never happen. It might it might maybe it'll happen. What do you think? Could we potentially get another Lord of the Rings set within another 2 years, which would include a copy of the One Ring? If not, I could see this card going easily as high as $200 in the next 2 years. Once it kind of gets out of print, give it 2 to 3 years, I could see just a basic copy of the One Ring going anywhere north of $100 to $200 quite easily. This will get a reprint soon with a different name, just like Great Henge. Okay, well, like I say, if we don't see, let me introduce you to the list, Brody. The list ring to rule them all. You think? Ah, good point. Good point. With a different name, just like the Great Henge. Give me the example of the Great Henge. Was that when they like gave it the reprint, like the Post Malone card, like the Zur the Enchanter, with a different name in a secret layer, perhaps? Hard to know. Decks using the One Ring, I still want to get one as a hedge against the possibility. I mean, it goes to reason. If Wizards wants to keep moving in the direction of making these collectibles long-term value, then a One Ring reprint's not going to help that. Got to go. Try and pop back later, but you'll likely be gone by then. Take care, guys. Have an excellent day. Thank you very much. In Lord of the Ring, the Great Henge is called the Party Tree. Oh, let's see here. The Party Tree. No? Oh, yeah. The Surge Foil Party Tree. Here it is here. Yes. That is sort of what I was thinking you meant. It'll get a reprint with a different name. Gotcha. So just like Zur the Enchanter got the same treatment. You think that's where we're going to see it next? Good possibility. Myself, I think this card will be likely over $100 and by the end of the year. I think it's probably going to be over $100 by the end of the year. I don't want to pay too much for it, but I do have to get one in a bundle here. I mean, the higher this goes, does that just push the bundle price higher? Going to be an excellent day, Seeds. Yes, indeed. All right, sold out, $75. I suspect they will not reprint it until Lord of the Ring goes out of print. I also do. I think we'll see the collectability of this card going up until till that time. Can we see it $200? Quite possibly.
Buy low, sell high, that's my motto. I may just quit my job at the power plant and become a full-time stock market guy.
All right, buy low, sell high. Here's an interesting card. This is the second off the top. We're talking modern cards this morning. It's Monday and it's February the 5th here for all those tuning in. Mindbreak Trap. Now, there was a deck I was looking at on the internet just the other day. It was called, I think it was a legacy deck, and it was called Counters and let's see if I can find it. This is a trap card from Zendikar. Traps are very good. This one's super good because it exiles any number of target spells. This thing's so good. And you can play it for free. It's 4 mana. It's from Zendikar, and right now it's sitting at $70. The foil version, OMG! I want to look at this one. Here's a missed opportunity for Brody. I looked at the foil version of this a few years ago, and I thought, man, wouldn't that be nice to get? It was $145, and now it's actually even more. It's 300. The foil multiplier on this is quite good, very high, and it's played in vintage decks all over the place. Where's the one I was looking for? Countervine. This is where it is. Countervine. So why does this card see so much play? Because it's played right here with the Bazaar of Baghdad. So Bazaar of Baghdad, this is definitely the land fueling this vintage deck. It's very hard to play against the Bazaar of Baghdad, especially when opponents casting Root Wallers for nothing. So you get to cast your Root Wallers, your Basking Root Wallers, your Blazing Root Wallers, your Veggie Vines, the Furries, the Hollow Ones for nothing. And then you can protect the you can protect your spells by using these free counters: Mindbreak, Trap, Force of Will, Force of Vigor, Force of Negation, Mental Misstep, all the free counters. So that's a very, very, very good reason why the Mindbreak Trap is still holding at, what are we here on tabletop for the foil version? $300, and the non-foil version is $70. Very expensive. It's only got the one printing. I got to take a look and see. There's the other one that lets you mill opponents 13 cards, is quite good. Veggievine. I had a Mindbreak foil. Stupidly dumped it during early. Oh, there's never been a reprint of this card either. Very good point. Oof, Mindbreak Prac looks like it hurts. Look at this thing go, eh? It's quite an incredible card since it hasn't been reprinted. Let's draw some lines on charts. Was sitting here around the 10 to $20 around Zendikar. Kaldheim, it's gone up to 30. And then Streets of New Capenna, that's when it just about touched the $40 mark in and around the Brothers War. Then it's been up as high as 50, $60 during the Phyrexia All Will Be One. And look at this. This is a very bullish chart here. Well, I see a cup and handle. Excuse me. Here's the cup and handle. Let's find it. Right here. Bullish pattern right here. Here's the cup. Here's the handle. Grab your coffee with me here this morning. We're talking stock charts. Looking at some patterns here. I definitely see a cup and handle, and I also see like another bit of a flag here. This is followed up with a bullish indicator here. This thing is going to keep going higher. I can't not think that there will be people demanding a reprint of this card. It's definitely just a matter of time to when we see it. But holy smokes, talk about reprint equity. This card, incredibly expensive. Man, I really, really could have used a couple more boxes of Zendikar around here. Right? Original Zendikar, never seen a reprint. What's the stock look like on this thing? Sold out, and the majority of decks playing it are either legacy and vintage. I know competitive EDH also plays it. Does cup and handle mean dump my 9 copies? Basis like $20 each. No, no, cup and handle is a bullish trend, meaning that it's going to go higher. Here's the cup and handle. Cup and handle pattern is a well-known continuation stock pattern that signals a bullish market trend. It's the same as the above rounding bottom, but features a handle after the rounding bottom. The handle represents a flag or pennant, and once that's completed, you can see the market break out in a bullish upward trend. So, according to history, the cup and handle pattern, where we see this nice rounded bottom with a handle, that means that this thing is going to be continue up in a bullish direction. To me, this looks like a pretty recognizable cup and handle. So do not dump your copies. No. Your cost basis is $20, so you're doing okay. So I mean, you do what you need to, but that's what the experts might say. Chalice of the Void, third from the top on the modern list. Sup, hot dice. Nice to see you this morning. It's getting hot in here, so shake up all your dice. Chalice, there's 2 copies of Chalice of the Void on here. Twice. This one's $64. Is pretty good. I could never find the original Mirrodin copy that I had was this one here, and it's worth a couple of bucks. What's it, 64? Almost the cheapest one. The time-shifted one, the foil is 170, and then the time-shifted non-foil is 62, so $60. Chalice of the Void, this is an interesting card. If you want a proc-free spell, you can even cast this for 0 mana, all right? Reason people like this card is because you can cast it for 0 and you can shut down all 0 drops. You also get a cast trigger and it counts as an artifact. It also turns on Metalcraft quite easily. Snapcaster and Mage is no longer relevant. It used to be super relevant in Modern. Bolt, snap, bolt, right? Yeah, we're a Snappy. Poor guy. He's fallen from grace. So this says whenever a player casts a spell with mana value equal to or the number of charge counters on Chalice of the Void, counter that spell. Here's one for you. If you're playing Chalice of the Void or you're playing against Chalice of the Void, I would say, like I've been at the tables before, people actually try to play spells through. And if you don't actually say, hey, I say trigger and I say counter, then you can actually try and like play spells through Chalice of the Void. I thought it funny. I was like, why are you playing a 1-drop? I just say Chalice. And people will actually try to cast spells through it. And if you don't say announce the trigger, it could be a missed trigger. So make sure if you're playing Chalice of the Void on say 1 and then somebody says, okay, I cast this, make sure you remember to say trigger. Very important. People will actually try and play through Chalice and get you to forget the triggers. And you can do the same, but it seems a little silly, but it's happened to me and it could happen to you. Let's look at the chart on this. Very, very soft chart. We're probably going to get another reprint of this here. Look at this chart. Ooh la la. A lot of ups and downs on this one. I like it. Okay, let's draw some lines on charts. I just want to sort of see here what we're dealing with. Let's connect the bottoms here. All these bottoms, you see the support level here? Where each one of these dip down in price touches. And then we've also got like a resistance level up here. The chalice tends to trade in and around this channel. Now, it could be because there's reprints that happen once it hits that $80 mark. But according to this chart, chalice being on the movers and the shakers here this morning, I could see this tending to hit a little bit of a downward reversal, and then the support line that's here might just move up a little bit. I think we're going to start to see more support at around the $40 mark and then bring this a little bit higher. It's questionable whether it's going to go over $80 because it seems like every time it tries to go over $80, it ends up taking another nosedive. So I'd keep an eye on this long term. I wouldn't want to buy this for any more than 80, but if you could pick up a copy in around $50, if it were to trend just a little bit lower right around here, in and around this level here, if you can get it to, if we can see it softening at all, then maybe that's the time to pick it up around the $50 mark. If you give it some time, it might just resettle in. Sometimes you cast into chalice for stuff like Murktide or Delirium. Yes, good point. Sometimes you just want the cast triggers, right? So that you can proc your trap card, right? Cast 3 or more spells. Sometimes you just want the storm count. Correct. I like it. Murktide or Delirium. Yeah, you can even nerf yourself with Murktide, right? You could just like chalice and put all your 0 and 1 drops into the graveyard so that you can use it to cast your Murktide. This used to be very good, particularly a sideboard staple in Modern. As we're seeing here, Rakdos Scam, Yawgmoth, Hardened Scales, 4-color Omnath, Murktide, Mono Green Tron, Black Coffers, Merfolk, Boros, Initiative, and Azorius Control all playing it. I'd say mostly in the sideboard, one legacy deck. Wow, I did well then. I got a Time Spell Remastered Chalice for $20. Yeah, you did. You did. Time Spell Remastered, 62. That's the one with the old border, right, Bob? This was a very nice reprint to get in the Time Spiral Remastered. Some decent value here. Yeah, that's the one. Yes, the Time Spiral Remastered with the artifact cycle with the old border was definitely nice for anybody who was able to pick it up. The Chalice of the Void also appearing here in and around $64 for the Mirrodin version. And then another card that got a reprint in the Gemstone Caverns is this one here. Reprint in Time Spiral. Time Spiral Remastered. There's money in this card, man. Here's the Time Spiral foil, right? The original Time Spiral foil and then the Time Spiral Remastered foil, that's $100. I had like, this was you ever have a Magic card that you just keep opening them and you almost get sick of them? That's happened to me a few times when you're like opening packs and it's just like this one card tends to gravitate towards you and you don't realize how lucky you are. Like in Dominaria Remastered, I think I opened like 3 or 4 Teferi Hero of Dominarias. And in Eldraine, I opened like 3 or 4 Okos. And also in Time Spiral, I opened a couple of the Gemstone Caverns. I think I opened 2 of them. I didn't get the foil version. But it's kind of funny when that happens if you just seem to get hot for a certain card, and I don't know why it is. I was just cracking all kinds of Okos and cracking all kinds of. Well, Oko was kind of a bummer because he got banned. I was super stoked. It's nice when you hit your matchups, and it's nice when you hit the hotness, right? I used to love opening Krenko Mob Boss and Tarland Sky Summoner before mass reprints. I legit pulled 6 Ugins. Nice. Nice. Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. And like another card like that for me, I was cracking these and I was 4-day packs in a row. Wow. Right? 4 a day pack. Yeah, 4 packs in a row, right? 4 fat packs in a row. Yeah, so sometimes a card just has an affinity for you, doesn't it? And this is one that I was cracking a bunch of, and I just got so sick of seeing it, and I buy listed a couple of them. Maybe I was a little too hasty, but when that happens, like, it's almost like free money, right? 6 Ugins. Oh, yeah. Snappy has a new home in Modern with what? Flame of Anor. So the Gemstone Cavern's a card, we've talked about it a few times. It's middle of the list here. It's fourth from the top, not including the two different variants of Chalice. We'll probably just consider that just one indicator of Chalice. But Gemstone Cavern's on the list here. Played in, I'm going to say Commander and Modern, mostly. Decks using it are is the Footfalls deck trying to steal the play. Most decks are only going to play 2 copies of at the most. That's what I found. I had 4 copies and I was trying to like be really aggressive with the Gemstone Caverns simply because I had so many of them. Like, well, I'm just going to jam 4 copies. It gets kind of bad after you have too many copies of it. Trying to hit that. And Brody's really unlucky. So I tended to just rely on not making the dice roll. And here's the interesting thing too with the Gemstone Caverns is if you're not playing first, right? So you can kind of, yeah, even if you win the dice roll, you can decide to go second. And then just if the deck's right for you, it's kind of uh, fringe play to win the dice roll and know you're going to take the draw, give your opponent the play, knowing you have Gemstone Caverns in your deck, hoping you're going to get it in your opening hands, and then try to go for the draw. It's a bit of a risk to take. It's a bit of a fringe play because playing first is quite often better in Magic the Gathering. But there are some times when playing off the draw is better, or if you're expecting to be incredibly unlucky and like me and not win any dice rolls, the Gemstone Caverns may be a card to hedge against that. I got 2 Snapcasters in an Innistrad Fat Pack back in 2011. Very sweet indeed. So Snappy's got a new home in Modern with Flame of Anor. Let's take a look at that card, Richie Dubs. Flame of Anor. New home in Modern with this card. Tales of Middle Earth. Choose modal. It's modal. Richie modal. All right. Flame of Anor. You get the instant speed. Richie's saying the home of the Snapcaster in this card are now going to be buddies. Choose one. If you control a wizard as you cast a spell, you may choose 2 instead. Okay, so this procs well with the good old Snappy Boy. Target player draws 2 cards, destroy an artifact, and deals 5 damage to target creature. Hmm. So the Snapcaster lets you do 2 out of the 3. So you get to replace itself and get another card, blow up an artifact, or deal 5 damage. 5 damage is quite good. It's probably enough to remove most threats. Even a decent sized Murktide you could get rid of. A couple of rhinos, perhaps. Flame of Anor. Can't say I disagree with you there, Richie. Here's an interesting card, Shadowmoor. I wish I had bought this in foil. I was playing Painter Servant when I got back into Magic and was getting out of Type 1 and Type 2. This Shadowmoor foil for this card, and like I say, I love the Shadowmoor foils. I think Lorwyn and Shadowmoor have some undervalued foils in. This is one of them. This is a card that's going to continue to see love. Now that Kaladesh Invention version is $200, how nice. All right. All right. So the Scarecrow. I want to look at the invention because this was a kind of a lagger. And it's funny how they put even like the combo in the invention. Like, look at this. This thing's been really good. They put Painter Servant and Grindstone into the Kaladesh invention. How clever, right? To put those 2 combos in, those iconic combo cards. This thing has just seen a really steady uptick in price. And even though it's on the movers and the shakers list, it's sort of found some support right around here and lowering down. The Kaladesh inventions, I think these are the exception to reprintables because even if Wizards tries to reprint with that old border like they did with the Ragavans, it's not the same. Like the border design is the same on the Ragavan, but it doesn't have the shiny foiling like these Kaladesh inventions. So like the Mana Crypt, the Lotus Petal, the Grindstone, the Painter Servant, the fact that they put both the Painter Servant and the Grindstone in the Kaladesh inventions, I picked up. I think I picked up 4 copies of the Grindstone. I did, and Painter Servant. I know I got one of them. Grindstone was very cheap. It was $30. It's 140 now. Holy moly! Yeah, so Grindstone was kind of one of the less favorable Kaladesh inventions when it was first released, but holy smokes, this has become quite good. Where was it before 2021? It was $100. I remember this was like the one of the less desirable Kaladesh inventions. Now it's very expensive. $140. Incredible. Okay, well I sort of missed this one. It was up at $180 not too far from now. So the fact that they put both of these masterpieces in the Kaladesh invention set really says something. Painter Servant is the only masterpiece I opened. Gemstone Cavern foil posted on your Discord, Brody. Nice. Yeah, hit me up over there too. So the fact that they put both of these 2 cards in the Kaladesh inventions said to me, like, I liked playing red Painter Servant. I did. And it was a tier 2 legacy deck. It wasn't tier 1. So let's see. Now, Painter Servant is definitely getting some love, and this is another reason Painter Servant. I'll tell you something, folks. Painter Servant, another reason that is single handedly moving the cost of Plateau, the original dual land, from the bottom and the worst dual land to actually one of the better ones. Plateau is no longer one of the cheapest dual land, and it's mainly because of this card, Painter Servant. There is a correlation between the two of them, and because Painter Servant is now getting some support in Legacy, was a tier 2 deck, and now with cards like the 4th Aerolingus, making Boros even more attractive in Legacy. The Painter Servant also getting some support with cards like the Mishra Phyrexian. Which card is it? The printing of the Phyrexian Dragon End. This card here, the Phyrexian Dragon Engine and Painter Servant single-handedly, and the 4th Aerolingus double-handedly moving the price of Plateau from the cheapest dual land to one of the more desirable dual lands, is because you can welder this in. Okay, Goblin Welder is using the Dragon Engine. When Dragon Engine enters the battlefield from your graveyard, you may discard your hand and draw 3. So people needed to have more ways to draw cards in Painter Servant, in Goblin Welder, and Goblin Engineer. So this card being printed, drawing 3 and wanting to be put into the battlefield from the graveyard, definitely makes Red Painter and Welder more desirable to play, and hence pushing up the cost of the Plateau. So a little bit of a correlation as far as I can see in the market here. This card, the Scarecrow, it's quite interesting. There's a few different ways to play it. Comes into play, you choose a color, and then everything that's not in play becomes that color. So if you choose blue, then you can use pitch anything to force a will, but you can also hydroblast or red elemental blast anything. So that was another interesting way to deal with blue decks. In the mono red painter and even Boros painter, you could fill your deck full of red elemental blast and then put painter on blue, and then everything is online. You can just blast your way to victory if your opponent's trying to play the counter war. So Painter Servant, quite good. Usually the color you name is blue, but it depends on your matchup. Sliver Legion. What is this Sliver Legion? Oop, I got a sliver in my little toe. From Future Sight. I wonder what the Future Sight foil is worth on this one. It's got to be worth at least $1 million. Slightly less than $1 million. This one's worth 134 for the Sliver Legion. This is the the Lord for slivers. And the Dragon Engine is animate it, turn it into a 10 damage, right? Dragon Engine is hot. Animate it, turn it into 10 damage. Hey, thanks for the link there, Cosmic Seeds. Nice to have you with me. Painter's Servant is the only masterpiece you opened. Hey, Bob? All right. Sliver Legion, this is definitely played. I gotta say, I don't have much of slivers. Oh, wow, look at this card, Fall from Grace. Here, wow, let's take a look at the chart on this. Quite interesting. This one here started off in around 50, 40 bucks up and until where the spark. And then I think this is right around where we had some last round of a reserve list buyouts. As I said earlier, probably going to be into 2024 or 2025, late 24, early 25 before we see a tick up in the market and the economy and people will actually get some money where they can go out and buy things again. It's been slow recovery. Right now, this thing has hit in around 150 bucks around Galdheim and Strixhaven and has since fallen from grace. Maybe now is a good time to pick it up, even though it's appearing on the Hoovers and the Shakers list here this morning. This Sliver Legion quite expensive from Future Sight, but maybe now is the time to pick up a copy. Myself, it's not on the reserve list. I am more apt to go after the Stronghold Sliver. What's her name? Sliver Queen. Myself, I'd rather try and go after a card like Sliver Queen because I don't have one and it's on the reserve list. But this card is also fun. Decks playing it, Commander, of course. Slivers are very difficult to deal with in Commander, and Changelings also work as slivers. So these are all the different ones. The first sliver, the Overlord, the Hive Lord, the Sliver Queen, Grave Mother, Morophon the Boundless, and Ramos the Dragon Engine. All 5 color commanders that are playing it, and slivers definitely a way to slivers are quite powerful in Commander. I don't know if they're competitive EDH playable, but when they do win, they're very hard to get around and deal with. Cavern of Souls. Hey, this card I was very happy to get a reprint of. I didn't have this copy, and I remember when it was in Modern, playing with Amulet Titan, and you put this on Giants. It was almost $100 if I do recall, and then it finally got a reprint, so I was able to pick up a couple of copies of it. Yes, so at least where were we here? Back in Dominaria, 2018, this thing was $100, and I was like, I don't want to pay $100 for a land. So I was very happy to pick up a copy of this when it was reprinted, and now it's seeming to be around the $60. I don't need any, but one is actually quite good. And a card like this, and both Saiju, who shelters all, making your instants and sorceries uncounterable. The Cavern of Souls does that for creatures, especially if you want to play your commander and you don't want people countering it. This card goes well in Commander because you can ensure that you'll get your commander on the field. Seen plenty of reprints. What's the cheapest version of this? $49 for the Modern Masters 2017. Yeah, so 45 for the Ultimate Masters. I think this is where I was able to get one, or maybe even opening it in a Mythic slot. Decent, decent. Always good to have just one of. You can also play it in Modern. It was played in decks like Amulet Titan. Yes, we see it there in Modern. We also see it in Legacy Goblins, Quintorius Combo in Pioneer, and then a few legacy decks playing it. Even one mono white initiative playing it in in vintage. So here's an example of a land that's played across multiple formats. You know what I feel like when I see a land that's played in multiple formats, and this is why I like the Echoing Deeps so much, because you see it in Modern, Standard, Vintage, Legacy. You see it played in a bunch of other formats. So this is always going to be a evergreen land, something that's going to be usable in multiple formats. So I don't think the Cavern of Souls is going to go anywhere, even if it sees a reprint. Urborg, $50 for the Plane Chase version, the Planar Chaos, right? $47 for the Planar Chaos. This thing's seen a few different reprints in the Ultimate Masters set. Cheapest version, what are we? $48? That's not true. The Ultimate Masters is a little cheaper. Oh, this is another thing like the Dread Marshes. This is like what Bob was talking about, where we're probably going to see the One Ring reprinted. under another name, a different variant. Urborg, the Tomb of Yawgmoth, it's very good for mana fixing. If you're using anything that has Swamp Walk, it's good to give your opponent some swamps because you can walk over and be unblockable. And like we were talking today, until Wizards comes up with Mountain Flying, then we're going to be stuck with Swamp Walking, right? I like it. I like that idea. Mountain Flying, Swamp Flying, right? If your opponent controls a swamp, this creature has flying. Pioneer Modern, and Commander. A decent card for mana fix on a land, giving everybody swamps, giving your ability to make black mana. I like this card, especially when you're playing cards like Tabernacle and some utility lands that don't tap for mana. I also the lands that are like pain lands. The pain land. I'll tell you how I would be playing this. I would love to play this with a card like Yasharn, right? So a card like Yasharn says, "You players." Well, let's look at Yasharn in a lands deck. So I'm playing this. I am playing it in a lands deck, a land stacks deck, 5-color land stack. So Yasharn and the Implacable. It says it enters the battlefield. You get to search your library for a forest or plains, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle. Okay, so you get a forest and a plains. You put them into your hand and then shuffle. Then players can't pay life or sacrifice non-land permanents to cast spells or activate abilities. So this basically turns off fetch lands. Turns them off. So you can't fetch. You can't pay life into a fetch land. The ones that you pay life for. The only fetch lands that are online are like Evolving Wilds, and the ones that don't don't make you pay life. So you have to choose the fetch land. Now a card like Miri's Guile. Let's see here. Miri's Guile. I do the combo you're thinking with my Tabernacle. Urborg is in my Erebos God deck. Continuous board wiping. Out of the Dead deck. Continuous board wiping. Look at this card, Miri's Guile. I like this 1 mana in chat. So at the beginning of your upkeep, you may look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put them back in any order. So this is very good. For 1 mana, this is a great turn 1 play. Continuous board wipe. Yes, continuous wiping. I like it. Jimmy, what else are you running the Tabernacle with to get the continuous board wipe? Are you running it with the Winter Orb, perhaps? Because I'm more along the lines of trying to find a good turn 1 wrap card or a good turn 1 card selection. The Miri's Guile seems good with a fetch land, right? And running the fetch lands that make you not pay life, and then you can look at the top 3 cards of your library and put them back in any order. If you don't like what you see of the Miri's Guile, then you crack the fetch land. Okay? And if you want to run the fetch lands that pay life, then you're going to want to run Urborg so that you can just tap them for regular mana. So Yasharn says you can't fetch and pay life. And then a card like Urborg allows those fetch lands to tap for black if you need them to. If you're playing the ones that pay, show me the way. It's very, very rude. Yeah, Winter Orb. I like to stall everyone in Gold Red to take creatures from the yard. Indeed. I like it. And Blighty Bolt, the Blightsteel here this morning. The 11/11 Infect Trample. Quite good. You know, I was staring down the barrel of an Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn, the 15/15 with Annihilator 6 one day. And I was staring down. I was playing against a Reanimate deck, and I was staring down the battle of an Emrakul, and actually Blightsteel Colossus got me there. Because they're like, well, I can't attack you because you're just going to crack me. You've got enough lands and permanents to sacrifice 6 to Annihilator 6 and take 15, but I can't take 11 Infect, so I've got to leave Emrakul back as a blocker. So it was like chump blocking with Emrakul, and then like Emrakul became a 4/4 after one hit, and like Blightsteel Colossus finished her off. So I was very impressed with Blightsteel Colossus and how good it can be doing trample and infect, threatening to one-shot your opponent essentially. Quite good. Blightsteel also seems some support. I'm very sad that I traded Blightsteel, and he was very expensive at one point in time. Now, in and around Ikoria and War of the Spark, this thing was like almost hitting $100, and since then, it's definitely seen a tick down in price. Let's take a look at the foil version of Mirrodin. Mirrodin Besieged. Mirrodin Besieged. Foil, $80. I hate to tell you folks, but for $80, I think this is the one. Because the non-foil version has gone as high as 100 before. And less than the highest price of the non-foil version, $80 for the foil Mirrodin. Original foil, perhaps, would be nice to have it. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get it, but I do have one from Doubles Masters. This one. I was able to get back into Blightsteel. I traded away my original Mirrodin Blightsteel and as a sweetener in a deal with somebody, and I really wanted to get it back. Didn't want to pay for it, but when I saw the reprint in Double Masters, I got excited. So we're playing this. Where are we playing this? Oath of Druids. I think that's where we're playing. We don't see the deck here, but Oath of Druids is playing it. Yes, Blightsteel Colossus and Rogue's Passage equals automatically dead. I like it. So these are your movers and the shakers here this morning, folks. It's February. Where does that rue come from? Right? February. When's the best time to purchase stocks? When the market hits bottom. I always gain weight after a Fed increase. And work at the New York Stock Exchange, you get plenty of hoes. And should you invest? When should you invest in nudity? In the bear market. I wouldn't suggest it. All right, thanks for tuning in here, folks. It's the Monday, February edition of Morning Stocks and Talks. Appreciate you folks for tuning in. Have a cool and fantastic, just a smooth Monday to start your week off. I want to thank you for joining me here this morning to discuss a little bit of magic cards here on the channel this morning. Wherever you are, may the sun be on your face and the wind at your back. We're gonna just have a little bit of sweet jazz flute music here this morning just to take us out and enjoy a little sip of coffee. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow will be a short show. I gotta kick the dog tomorrow. I got a busy morning tomorrow morning, so I'm gonna be out early. So I'll be a little earlier tomorrow if I'm gonna be longer, or it might just be a shorter show. I try and do an hour if I can. Tomorrow might be just about an hour. So for you folks tuning in, I thank you again. Mr. DJ, Millmaster, Hot Dice, the Cosmic Seeds, the Dual Brain, the Gaming Bomb, the Benson, the Friends, Richie Dubsky, Cardboard Splendor, Tommy Siddons. Appreciate you for joining us here this morning. And the Huckleberry Magic Hound.